Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Their Story Matters, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest today is Joy Loverde. She's written this beautiful book, which I think is absolutely amazing. Well, she's actually written 3, but we're going to be talking about one. We're going to address all 3 of them today. Who will take care of me when I'm old? She's also got the Complete Eldercare Planner and how to care for aging parents. A lot of people don't address old age, and it's no, I'll worry about that when I get there. And then when they get there, they realize they're not prepared for it. And she says, how do you plan a safeguard of your health and happiness in your old age? She says, according to the Journals of Gerontology, sorry, I can't say that very well, 1 in 3 baby boomers falls in the category of separated, divorced, widowed, or never married. Millennials are following this trend. A recent Gallup poll indicates that 59% of the 79 million millennials are single and have never been married. Adding fuel to the fire is the caregiver crisis. The decline is the number of people available, provided in-home care, including family members, and longevity, singledom, isolation is a recipe for disaster. So let's see how we can prevent that disaster today. I have just turned 67. I didn't prepare for my old age. I'm probably going to be working until I drop dead. And I do have family, though I would never impose myself on my family because I saw it happen with my mum. But we are not prepared for it. And we have a lovely show this week too on retirement, preparing for that as well. It falls kind of into the same category. We're not prepared for old age, are we, Joy? Welcome to the show.
No, because there's so many myths out there on what old age is. I mean, Sarah, if I were to ask you, what do you think old age is? How would you respond?
I think when you literally cannot take care of yourself anymore. It's when you've got to that point where you really are dependent on other people, because I am 67 young and I'm still very productive. But when it comes to that day when that productivity is not there anymore and I have to rely on other people, that's when I'll say, okay, I'm old.
And you want to hear my definition?
Yeah.
It's when I've done everything. I have total peace of mind. I am delighted with what I know, and I'm still curious. I am surrounded by people who love me. So you see the difference between where you go, which is it's all about being cared for. And for me, it's all about having validated a life worth living.
Yes. Totally. I do agree with the life worth living, because we're seeing so many people. And, the oldest person I've interviewed on here was 89 and she has her own TV show still, and it's like age is not the barrier to enjoying life or living an exuberant life. But I was addressing it from the point of when you get to that point where you need help. And, at some point, it doesn't matter how astute you are or how engaged you are with life. I know people had someone the other day whose mother just turned 100, but you get to that point where you do need some help. Maybe it's memory, maybe it's physical. And that's when you kind of know, okay, I'm one of those elderly that need the help.
Good point.
And we're not prepared for that, but I do agree with you. Life is about exuberance, and there should be no age bracket on it.
Well, there isn't, because I know 70-year-olds who are acting and behaving very old, and I know 100-year-olds who are running marathons.
Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah, and it's attitude, isn't it? A hell of a lot of it is attitude, and I think is the way you look at life. Half full or half empty, but also how you engage in life. Not waiting for life to come and get you at the nursing home, but how you engage in life, still being productive.
Absolutely. I know a lot of people who live in assisted living who are teaching other people how to do the computer. how to exercise, and so it's just, and they're all in the same place.
Yes.
And they all need care, but some of them have the attitude of living, until they take their last breath, and that is so big, so different.
Yeah. I have a wonderful Esther Schifrin, who I've interviewed a few times. She's 82. I mean, her life has been quite traumatic, but through it, art, she's an artist, she's a musician, she's an author, and she has written every single day through this pandemic a rhyme every single day, and it's reflected the times, or it's been uplifting. And I think the big word is engagement, isn't it? Be engaged in something.
Yes, and you bring up a good point, because where we live will allow us to be more engaged than in another situation. If so many people say they want to live alone and they want to live in their own homes, but they don't realize the lack of engagement that may be as a result of that decision. So how do you stay engaged when you're living in your own home, but nobody's coming over to visit, or you don't? So it's a self-sabotaging decision unless you think it all the way through.
I mean, I would like to go out like the Golden Girls. I mean, never mind the escapades they got up to, but the camaraderie. I live with an 88-year-old right now. And yes, I'm having to step in on the memory issues because, a lot of things that she does forget. And I have to step up with, Sarah, my TV's not working, my computer's not working. And it's just because she's likely to push too many buttons. But we just recently came back from Montreal, which is her home city. And she was showing it around, and it was childlike exuberance of showing me her city, and I found it hard to keep up with her. So I think again it comes down to, yes, there's maybe things that start breaking down, but we look at what we still can do and what we've got a love of life for, right?
Yeah, I love what you just said, because one of the gifts that my sister and I gave my mother when she turned 80, and my mother is from Italy. So when she turned 80, my sister and I treated her to a trip back to her hometown in Lucca, Italy. And it was magical.
Yeah.
And my mom in the beginning, this is the best thing, she needed assistance to walk, because in Europe, everyone just walks. And she wasn't used to walking so much. So we had a wheelchair available to her from the hotel, and we would take her, and pretty soon she said, let me try it without the wheelchair today. And little by little, by the end of the trip, which was only 2 weeks long, she had lost about 10 pounds. She had walked everywhere. She was eating gelato like crazy. But it's like, what can we give each other to, like you said, that childlike exuberance? Isn't it magical when you see the people who surround us so happy and so engaged?
There's a point you make in the book, and we said it in the introduction, about, so many people either divorced or widowed or millennials not in partnerships. And there was a trend to, my parents divorced, I just don't want to go there, I'm just going to be on my own. And as you said, it's a setting up for disaster. But then the other side of the thing we're seeing is like, okay, I'm not going to get into a relationship just for relationship's sake, but I don't mind sharing a house with other like-minded people. Again, kind of Golden Girl type thing, right? And sharing that. My daughter right now is turning 39. Yes, she does have a boyfriend, but she is going to be sharing a house with another couple. They're all kind of in the same industry. And instead of living in an apartment on their own, they can be in a house, they all have their own space, but they can also be together. And I think that togetherness is something they're seeking, but we just got to seek it in a different way, right?
Exactly. Do you remember in the 60s and the 70s, all the boomers were in communes, and we thought nothing of living in a house with 10 other people.
Right. I did that. Yes.
Me too. But it seems like what's happening is we've skipped a generation, and now the millennials see the value of that. And they're so much like us in many ways that they love the idea about being with other people. They have a lot of friends. They may not be in a relationship,
Yeah.
but they have a lot of friends, and that is so wonderful.
It's a community, isn't it? Where everybody looks out for each other, and they
Yes.
don't have to see each other every moment of every day, but they know how to come together or who to turn to when they need to. And that,
Yeah.
I think that's very important. You know, many years ago, I wrote an article on, you know, only the lonely, and I think one of the worst things is being lonely in a crowd, where you feel no one sees you, no one hears you, no one's communicating with you. You're around people, but there's nothing in common. And you can have a conversation with someone and you feel it's just washing right over them. Or you're in a relationship where you're so desperately lonely because there's no more connection. And I think that is, it doesn't matter what age you are, but I mean, that is really deadly.
Yeah. So part of the responsibility we may have to the next generation is to make friends and be friendly with millennials. And they, you know, my experience has been they welcome that kind of engagement with us. And it's something we can leave behind as a legacy.
Yes. And, you know, I think the other beautiful thing that we're seeing is like kids going into nursing homes and showing them how to work computers or tablets or their phones, right? I mean, there's a gorgeous one of a 5-year-old on the phone. No, grandma, that's not the on button, you know? But it's a beautiful way of bringing generations together. And I think it breeds respect and value and, you know, like, all the things. If the younger people sat down and talked to someone older who's gone through stuff, you know, not only will they learn strength, tenacity, and tips, right? But I think they would also learn a great deal more respect for the value of life and the struggles of life, but also for each other, for themselves too.
We can bring a lot of depth to their young lives if they want it, and we have time and we have patience for them, whereas maybe other people around them are too busy, respectfully so. And then we can give them what they may not even know they're looking for.
Yeah, and the thing is that we've probably most, you know, I always say to people, we do these shows with all this wisdom that we shared because we know you're going to hit the potholes, but we want you to avoid the Grand Canyon.
I love that. Can I use that?
You can use that, my dear. You know, and that's the point is yes, you're going to trip and fall. Yes, you're going to have some disasters in your life. But if you have learned from the people that have gone before you, how they managed that, how they got through that, it's kind of giving you the skills and the tools to weather your own storms.
Yes. Yeah. And there's nothing better than to have it be repeated and hearing it from different voices.
Yeah.
The thing about us is we're not telling them what to do. We're just sharing and we're giving them our time. And this is something everyone craves. So that's the way, you know, and I hear so many people my age, your age, we're the same age. I hear so many people say, I don't have any friends. Well, look around, all these people who are just seeking a connection. They're everywhere.
And hasn't the pandemic shown that? You know, like, you know, we got isolated and the only way we could talk to people is through the computer, which I've been doing for 9 years anyway. But, you know, it showed people, okay, you may not be always able to get out or afford to get out in the community, or you can volunteer. There's a great way of getting to know people, but there's other ways of joining things and interaction. And yes, it's wonderful to be interactive with people physically. Like, you know, one of my favorite things is lunching out or dining out over a meal, everybody over a meal, right? You know, conversing and coming together. If we can't do that for whatever reason, then reach out even in this way, because you've even got that face-to-face and you can still have fun and you can still make that connection. But I think one of the things the pandemic has most certainly done is shown us how much we need each other.
Isn't that the truth? I mean, how grateful we were when we came back together with someone and no more Zoom. And we just said, oh, it's so good to be with you. And whether we gave each other a big Zoom hug or not in person was our prerogative, but at least we were together.
Yeah. Yes. You know, there's so many things you've got in your book here that, you know, looking through you've really written a book, and I know it's in all three of your books, of, really kind of a navigational guide to, growing old, the amount of resources that you've put in here, down to kind of movies you can watch that can uplift you, and connect you. And, it's just amazing the detail that you've put in here. God knows how long it took you to write this, because it's really, really a lot.
Let me just say, I went in a cave and I focused, and I came out a year later. I didn't have the luxury of a long time. My publisher said, I want it yesterday, and they gave me a deadline. And so it was a labor of love, and it was I probably could have put more in there, but I didn't need to. There's only so much.
Yeah. There's so much you put in here. I mean, things like age-friendly home checklist. As you get older, there's simple things that we don't think about until we've fallen over, or we don't have, I've fallen and I can't get up. And we laugh at that until we fall down and can't get back up, age alone with others in mind, aging in a place alone, what do you need to know? I mean, there's so many, you've put where you live matters. I mean, there's just a mindful here of just amazing amount of detail that you've put into it. And it's like, it really is the how-to guide of growing older. And that means, starting from when you're a millennial, preparing.
Exactly. The trusting relationships we have as adults don't happen overnight.
No.
And if you can't call somebody at 2 a.m, it means you haven't cultivated those relationships, so it allows that to happen, and us vice versa if somebody wants to call us. So it just doesn't happen overnight. So more millennials buy my books than anyone for the most part, because they're helping their parents and their grandparents, but they're also helping themselves.
Yeah.
And so when I give talks, very often I have young people, and a lot of the work that I do is in corporations for employee benefits. So child care and elder care, and there I am showing up and helping people navigate the elder care part of employee benefits.
There is so much detail out there, and we get kind of, I just don't know where to start, so we don't start.
Right. And so I love to say to people, because who doesn't think that this is crazy, it's overwhelming, I'm going to stop now. So the answer is, number one, money. That's number one. Do not pass go. All you have to do is start with figuring out, how do I finance a longer life, and is everyone around me financially stable? Because we could plan all, very thoroughly for ourselves. But the minute someone in our inner circle is in trouble financially, who do you think they're going to go to? They're going to go to you, and they're going to ask you, can you help me figure this out, or what have you? So in the process of planning for a financially stable, longer life, bring your friends, bring your siblings, ask your parents, we need to talk about this. Because we could easily dip into our own pockets when someone we love is in trouble financially, and we cannot do that. We cannot sabotage our own financial long-term stability. So financial planning means it's you and everybody around us.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because again, as I said, Mark Singer's on this week as well, and it's about, retirement and also our securities. The inflation is going up, but our pensions aren't going up. And he's saying that, right in your 20s, if $10 a week, put $10 a week away and just forget about it. It's part of the cost of living. Put it away, and you see how it accumulate over time. And then it's like suddenly you've got that cushion, you've got that money. It's making interest, and it's that simple. But when we're young, we don't think about that, because it's about paycheck to paycheck. I'm going having fun. I'm going to meet my buddies, and we don't think about the tomorrows, because when we're young, it's like, no, old age, I'm so far away from that, right? Or my parents are so far away from that. And then somebody has a heart attack, and then suddenly you have a realization, right? My dad died when I was 45 of a heart attack, and that changed our lives completely, right? So, as you said, divorced, separated, widowed, it's those pivotal moments in our life can change directions altogether. And are we prepared for them? Because as you said, everything will have a financial cost to it.
Correct. So to simplify things to help people in the planning process is start with money.
Yeah. Yes. And as you said, it's the oxygenate yourself. Right? So if you have actually got money cushioned for your own life, you're not going to be a burden on your children later on because you've got that cushion, you can afford that care. And, maybe you do have that little extra to help someone else because you've been cushioning. But, I think what we're seeing too a great deal with the younger people today, like my kids, they're in their 30s, they've just gone and collectively bought a house together, which they're going to be Airbnb. It's a lovely cottage on Culloden Lake here. Spectacular view and the elk walking by and the river and everything else. I would love to live there myself. And it's going to do very well, I know. And it's an investment that they've bought, taking a chance, but it's something that they will never lose out on the selling of it, even if they didn't make money for the Airbnb. But what I'm excited about is they've done it together because the siblings wanted to make sure. My one daughter doesn't have as much money, so she's only put in so much, but she's invested in something. Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of millennials don't, I can't afford to buy a house. It's so expensive here, especially in British Columbia. The prices for houses nowadays kind of start at $1 million. And so they don't have the money to go into that. So look to people you can do it collectively with, right? Maybe your best buddies and say, all right, we're happily married right now, but let's invest in it. Maybe it's our golden girls, retirement place down the road, but do something together.
That's brilliant. Your children are wonderful. That is absolutely fabulous. And it's so doable. Even if it isn't with siblings, you could make arrangements with friends.
Exactly.
And including people our age who might get together and figure out an affordable way to do housing and invest in something together.
Yes. You could be doing that maybe in your 50s, retarement's further away and all of that. But even, you've got the situation where the kids have left home, for some reason you are now single. To maintain your own property is very expensive. So why not everybody pool together, get a nice house, afford someone to come and clean it, right? Because you're all putting in the kitty, right? And they, you've got camaraderie, you've got companionship, and nobody's got the burden of carrying a house on their own.
Right. And
so you can afford to enjoy life.
Exactly. And you have a plan B there, because if there's more than one person or even more than two people, when the triangle breaks, if something happens one way or another, you make that plan to say, what's the exit strategy here if something happens to one of us? But if there's more than two, you're still protected.
Yeah, I mean,
unlike a couple situation, so if you have more than two, you are somewhat protected, and then you could always bring a third person in.
Exactly. I mean, there are so many solutions, but what we're saying about preparing for old age and everything is definitely be interactive with life. All right, you may have retired, or you're going to give up your job for some reason, but what is it that you love to do? What's meaningful to you? Find a purpose that's meaningful to you, and whether it's money or not money. The enrichment comes from many, many ways, but being of service to something or someone is one of the most enriching things you can do. And it gives you that reason to get up every day, doesn't it?
Yes. And that is what makes the difference between someone who grows old in their mind and one who does not.
Yeah.
Very different mentalities.
We see this with people who retire, who have had a very busy life. And they retire and they don't have any hobbies and they aren't doing anything, and they're dead within a short period of time.
That's right. That's exactly right. And not to say, I mean, I've always been of the philosophy that everybody has a right to live the way they want. And I've also been around hospice enough to know when someone decides they're done and they decide to get done, it's like, okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that, but how can I help facilitate and give you the most peaceful rest of your life? What can I do to be facilitate your happiness no matter what?
Yeah, because you talk about death midwives in the book, and I've done a couple of shows on that as well, and everybody went, death midwife? Isn't a midwife just bringing? But we celebrate the life coming in. Why can we not celebrate the life going out? Why can we not give people that dignity and that respect of a beautiful exit, of someone being there with love and care, and even the allowing of looking after the body afterwards so people can say goodbye. And we don't give death the same respect as we do. Mind, a lot of ways of bringing babies into the world nowadays is almost like manufacturing. But if we have the glory of a midwife and do it naturally, it's a beautiful gift when a child is born. Why can we not look at that life that's going and say, what a beautiful life, thank you for your contribution?
I think that's going to change. The boomers are a little more forward in terms of how we break rules and just, nix authority and all that. And there are death cafes where they're beginning to talk about it. And I've heard of the most outrageous celebrations of life when someone else is gone, and being buried with your motorcycle, and just the sky's the limit, being sent up in a spaceship with your ashes. There are so many ideas that I give in the book about different things you can do. Cremate, you could do, there's a new water process instead of cremation. You could have these water, your remains in water, and it just coral reefs and so many things. And so
life giving back. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think we're going to be the generation that begins the process of feeling more comfortable with these conversations. I'm already seeing evidence of that. People come to me and tell me what their plans are, and it is just all over the map. And we really enjoy just having a good time talking about that.
Yeah, I've already told my kids it's ashes, and I want a willow tree planted with the
beautiful
ashes.
Yeah, see,
right, and that tree is a place where you can go. I'd like a bench put around it. Come and have a conversation with me. You can converse with me anywhere. I'm there in spirit, but if you need a place to go, I don't want a tombstone. I don't want that. I also don't want a wake. I want a celebration of my life. It's been crazy, so it should go out crazy.
Good for you. Then people could carve their initials in the tree.
Yes. I'm known as a person that comes and speaks to when they have problems. Come and tell me your problems. And the thing about trees that people don't understand, they're great listeners, but they're amazing communicators. And if we're still enough, we're going to get the information we need. So they're incredible creatures, trees. And so for me it's the willow tree. I used to joke about sending my ashes the top of the mountain over the water, and then I'm a Monty Python era, and so I can just imagine the ashes coming back in their face. Turning into horror. So so I thought, no, the ashes with the tree will be better. I think we need to also lighten up about old age, don't we? It's like, well, no, you're at your age. What's that? What's that? No, don't go out in a bikini when you're, if you ain't got that body. They were looking at some people today, in their 80s and whatever, supermodels, wear the bikini if you can. But, and there's a certain amount of respect and decorum, but at the same time, go and have fun. Have fun.
That's right. I mean, we realize at some point the shelf life that we all have, and it helps to have fun friends. Yes. I mean, how fun are your friends? That's your first question.
Yes.
If you're hanging around people who are in the rabbit hole of the dark hole and they're going lower, perhaps you can include some more fun friends in your circle so that they can get you out of that kind of mindset. Very important who you hang around with later on. Very important.
Go and join something. I'm not a huge pack person. And also I'm spending so much time, visiting my kids, and I have a new grandson. He's 7 months actually tomorrow. And so I'm always going around seeing my kids, and then I see my, friends and things like that. So I've got, excuse me, interactiveness there. But you can join things. Like as I said, you can go and volunteer with something that's meaningful for you, and you will make friends that way. You can go and join, there's a lot of senior communities where you can still participate in things. You can go swimming, there's so many things you can do. Unfortunately, with my 88-year-old, she won't go and do any of these things.
Well, that's right.
And it's like a lot then becomes on me. Let's go and do this, Sarah. Let's go and do that, Sarah. I'm working, love, and it's, and because through the pandemic, she's got friends that won't go out. And of course, at her age, there's a lot of people, that are leaving this world. And she wants to play tennis. And I said, just go and put a notice up on the tennis thing. Call me if you want to have a game, and it's she talks herself out of it.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. Though she, dives into puzzles and dives into things like that, and she goes out and feeds the birds every day, and goes and does things, but she needs friends. This is something I saw, with my mother, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, of she had a tight-knit group of friends, but then wouldn't, other than the theater, because she was an actress, wouldn't kind of go out there and do it. It was kind of waiting for life to come to them. And I think one thing we've got to remember, and millennials certainly know this, life isn't going to knock on your door. There's too many doors there. You've got to let them know where you live.
Yes. It's interesting you say a generational thing. That was my mother as well. It did nothing. And I realized that she was perfectly happy doing nothing. And so she was, unlike your friend who was more proactive about wanting to do something. The fact that my mother didn't want to do anything, I had to come to terms with. She was happy like that.
Right.
And so we did talk about that a lot. And when I finally got it through my thick skull about how happy that made her, I began to participate in watching television with her every night. So that was our activity, and she couldn't have been happier.
Right. Exactly. The other thing is that we're seeing so much of, which is absolutely wonderful, is as you get older, you've had so many experiences in life. Each decade has been a monumental. I mean, let's just look at the last 100 years, of history that we've been through. And, I always say to people, write book, write blog, write something. I've interviewed people who, because they're blogs, oh, but it's just a blog. I said, no, you don't understand. That story is so impactful. It needs to be shared. I don't know how to write. There's ghostwriters. Or you can audio it and somebody will transcribe it for you. There are so many means today that someone could do that. But what a nugget of information you are. Please share it. It. It's an inspiration to the younger generation. And it's also a beautiful respect and camaraderie of the people of your own generation.
So Sarah, in the book, you might have read about ethical wills. Okay, so an ethical will is nothing to do with legalities of any kind, but you're describing an ethical will. So people typically also leave information that is written that says, this is who I really am. This is what I love. This is why I did what I did. This is how I came to be what I am today. And I just wanted you to know. And so people's ethical wills can be books, they can be blogs, they can be very long stories about who they are.
Videos, right?
Videos, anything that teaches the next generation, whether we know them or not, a way to understand how other people navigate this incredible life, this short life that we live, even if it's only 100 years. It's a very short period of time in respectfully the bigger picture.
The spectrum of time,
and just leaving that information as you described will give somebody peace of mind as well. Like yes, if you're more of an isolated kind of person and you really don't want to go out and do a lot of things, perhaps the idea and the process of writing an ethical will, leaving it somewhere with your important documents, will bring you a lot of peace of mind, validate what you've done, and just your thoughts. Leave it as a gift for the next people to come.
Yeah. And the thing is that your own kids and your grandkids will have their own perception of you through their interaction with you. And for you then to leave them something like a video, written, audio, anything, and together collectively they read, see, or hear this. It's like, did you know that of Mom?
Right.
I didn't know that of Mom. Yeah, we did that. What do you mean you did that? How come she didn't do that with me? You know, but I did this with her. Well, I didn't do that with her. And all of a sudden, you're seeing somebody not just as the flat-faced mom or dad. You're seeing them as somebody that was a dynamic person that showed different sides to different people according to the different energies with each other, right? So,
oh, yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful gift to give people. And it's a wonderful exit, because what we feel we're doing is putting our own full stop on our life, right?
I read something interesting, and I also included it. This generation, the younger generations, don't know about handwriting.
Yes. yes, I did a wonderful one on that.
Very simple way to leave your mark in the world is to write a handwritten letter to the next generation, or someone who will be around to see your handwriting and to recognize it as a part of your personality.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful thing. You and I can recognize the handwriting of parents and grandparents, the cards they wrote us, love Aunt Bernice. And we know the handwriting, right?
Yes.
And our fathers and our mothers, the recipes and things like that. And then what could we leave? Like, even if it's a very short letter to a child or a grandchild, we will never know. And they will have our handwriting, and who knows, maybe somebody will put it in a frame.
And we did a show on this a few years ago, 4 years ago, where it was a tradition of that culture. I think it was the Jewish culture to write that letter of who I am, and that letter to be sent after death. But she was also talking about the art of letter writing. And, it is beautiful. It's like, as I said, I just had a birthday. It's actually nice to receive a card with nice words in it, like, you can get an email, you can get this and that, but that card's something you can actually tear the envelope over and open it. I'm still old-fashioned enough that I like a book, not a tablet, to read on.
I'm with you.
There's something about holding that page, that That's book, right. And turning the page, and it's also better for the eyes, folks, than constantly being on the screen. But actually, I think more and more you see millennials kind of going, I really do like the texture of a book, and I do want to write something. But yes, as you said, there are so many people today that actually do not know how to handwrite, and that's something we need to address. Yes. My mother's writing was terrible because she was left-handed, and she was whipped as a child at the convent school and made right-handed. So her signing was an M, blah, 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 and a long like that for mummy. And you had to decipher her writing. We used to call it doctor's writing. Right? But she was a beautiful storyteller. And I have a couple of her stories here on my site, because I was asthmatic when I grew up, and before the pump came along, the pills that were given took time to work, and I'd be breathing and having a hard time, and she would tell me a story to distract me so that my breathing could get under control. And a beautiful storyteller, and you want those type of things to carry on. I want that story for my own grandchildren to hear, right?
I just love what you said. I mean, what she taught you by telling a story to distract you. Yes. I hope somebody hears this and applies it to anyone who is having difficulty in the moment.
Yes.
That's beautiful, Sarah.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're inclined to look at our angst with our family, you did this and you did that, and we emphasize on that, and we don't look at the other things. And we also don't look at how they were brought up. We were all sent off to boarding school. I was brought up in England, all sent off to boarding school very early. And that was the way, right? But looking at how my parents have been brought up, I mean, my mum was given the cane at 3 for wanting a hug from her mother. So when you look at that, how could she be a huggy mother? you know, and I'm a huggy mother that I still to this day, you know, 6'2", I'm hugging and kissing my son, and he knows that that's going to happen, you know, and they're huggers now, you know, the hugs were passed on. But while we're looking at discontent of why didn't our parents do this and that, let's look at how they were brought up, because each generation is going to learn more about themselves, more about what they really want to do, and step into that. So, you know, we're lacking in our generation of what we did for our kids, and our kids are going to do it better for their kids, right? So we have to look beyond just the one generation.
Yeah, it's how we pass the baton.
Yeah.
And we also teach. I'm doing this because this is what I knew of my parents and my grandparents, and I want to do things differently. And this is what I want you to know about my past and your past as well that you may not know.
Yeah. You know, there's so much you have in this book, you know, even the conversations and the motivating of self. I love, again, the reference that you've done on movies and books, because we do learn. We do learn, you know, we watch a movie and we may be entertained, but afterwards, you know, I really relate to that. Has that ever happened to you? I would like that to happen to me, right? So it's, you know, savor the moment, you know, savor the good while it lasts, because that you store that away, you know. No, things aren't going to be good all the time. That's an illusion. But when those good things happen, what we do is we take that good feeling and we just put it in there. And anytime we need that good feeling, we can bring it out as a memory.
That's right. I had the different ways to teach, because we all learn in a different way. So I thought words aren't enough for a lot of people. So I put the books in there, books to read, movies to watch, music, the words of music, YouTube, Pinterest, you name it. I just tried to say, look, if this doesn't appeal to you, maybe this is a way that something will click for you. And that was why all of that went in there. And I had a lot of fun doing that.
Oh God, yes, imagine, you know, I just, and you know, what it does, it sparks conversation.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I was being interviewed on the radio, and what the interview said, now, why did you pick this movie? It doesn't make any sense that you picked this movie. And so we got in this big conversation. Yeah. So you never know. And so here we are in the middle of trying to, you know, and still we got in another conversation about.
And you know what's so beautiful today, as opposed to, you know, the other days that, you know, actresses especially had a shelf life. And now you've got the Judi Denchs, the Helen Mirrens, you know, so many people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, even in their 90s, you know, Betty White, you know, just look at the exuberance of her, and they're still going, they're still acting, and they're still full of that exuberance of life, you know. All right, no, they can't do what they used to do 20 years ago, but my God, their presence is still very much noted. And you know what it does, it's given permission to people. It doesn't matter if you get wrinkled or you get old or you have to walk with a stick or you've got some health issues now. It's still about your presence and how other people feel it, you know. And does it somebody good? Is it an inspiration? Is it an illumination? And that, you know, it ain't over, baby, until you're over, you know. And so don't count yourself out.
Right. And you had mentioned, you know, why is it that people are so afraid of old age? And I thought, well, one of the things we have to do is show people and demonstrate and have evidence of successful aging. Maybe other people are doing it in the movies, or maybe they are doing something else that could help us get a new picture of what old age looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And that, wow, God, still acting at this age. And, you know, I mean, Helen Mirren in Fast and Furious. You know, and she will show a picture of herself before and, you know, after, like the Oscars when she's all made up, and then she'll show a picture of herself before without the makeup and go, look, folks, illusion. You know? Reality.
Absolutely. I'll never forget a YouTube that Jane Fonda did. So she had all her makeup on, and then little by little she wiped it all off and started taking all the hair implants off, you know, that makes her hair full, and she just looked just like a normal housewife, like, you know, we could be in a nanosecond. She said, this is what Hollywood does. This is who I am. It was a wonderful demonstration.
Well, Grace and Frankie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, she falls for a younger man, and then she's saying, you know, look, this is me. The eyelashes come off, the hair comes off, and everything else. And he says, but I love you anyway. And they get married, and then like she's stuck on the loo and can't get up, you know. And it's, I mean, that is, if you want, it's the kind of the golden girls of, you know, of the generation
Right.
now. And it's so funny because they're so complete opposites. The whole storyline of how it all comes about, highly recommend it. You're going to get good laughs, but you're also going to get a perspective of how they're kind of fighting the perception of age. You know, and hey, you know, just because I'm of this age, don't count me out. Don't count me out. I'm not over yet. I've still got so much to give. And we're very disrespectful of people. But no, you've had your day. No, I haven't. You know, and yes, it is for me to pass that wisdom on and not hog the limelight. Yeah. But at the same time, don't just put me on the shelf and saying I'm finished now.
Right. Ageism is very real. They have some advantages we don't have. And so this is something that most women have to confront with the reality of ageism in work and in walking in the grocery store and you name it. Yeah. So I do talk about ageism, but I'm also fortunate to have had a wonderful role model in my mother who would first of all, she died at age 92. So this was her attitude up until the day she died, is she would walk in a room. She would never have the high expectations. However, when she walked in a room, she walked in with dignity and respect for herself, and then had the pleasure of watching everybody else bang into the wall. And she would just sit there and observe behavior. And when people would come up to her, she, of course, would respond respectfully, and they would sense her vibration and get that who she was. She knew that they would respect her and she would respect them. And that is the role model I had. And that's one that I will always carry with me wherever I am. And I do that now. And I don't experience a lot of ageism when I'm in a crowd or when I'm walking in anywhere. And it is because I've had deep ingrained soulful experiences of take a deep breath, Joy. You know who you are.
Yes.
Go into this room with love and respect for yourself and for others, and let it all happen. Yeah. You know, and that's a lesson I understand how difficult it is for people, especially who are working. It's especially difficult in the healthcare environment. And this is something we also, as long as we have a voice, we need to stand up to ageism in hospitals and in other environments in the healthcare industry, in the field. When we're there, calmly just say, I don't think you heard me, doctor. I'd like to say it again. And to not be afraid to voice what is happening for you so that you can get what you need. This is really important. It's a matter of life and death. Right.
You know, you are your own grace, right? And, you know, vibration, I'm so glad you brought that up, because we are vibrational creatures. We, you know, our energy is perceived even before we walk in that room. And, you know, we may have something wrong with us that is our challenge. I have fibromyalgia. I have to deal with it. It's something that, you know, we've teamed up together and we manage it. But it does stop me being able to do certain things. And I'm not going to have to validate that to you. I know. Right. And if I say no to something, it's no to something. If I say I'm looking for something, please hear me. But the other thing is, we are not whatever our disability has become. You know, we're not that. We're still the beautiful, exuberant person that is there. Is that we're now dealing with this. Right. And so please don't just see the problem. Please don't see the health issue. See the person behind the health issue, right? So when we do see a doctor, when we do see other people, don't come out with oh God, my aches and bones and my this and my that, you know? Please don't put that first forward. Put your exuberance of life and this and that. You can make fun. Well, you know, I fell down flat on my face the other day. You should have seen it. Make fun of it. Don't be embarrassed about it. We all do it at some point. You can talk about the obstacles, you know, but do it in a manner that doesn't demean you or bring you down or make you become part of what the problem is rather than the exuberant person you really are.
That's right. We don't become our illness.
Yes.
Don't have that be your identity.
Yes.
But there's another side to this story, and it happened when I am advising people who are caring for aging parents. So are you talking to them like mom and dad, or a person who is sick who used to be your mom and dad?
Yeah.
I mean, just understand that they are their person first, and then they happen to have their illness.
Yes.
Like a companion, but they are not, that's not who they are. And one of the biggest mistakes family members make is they talk to their parents like they are their illness.
I have a case in point here with my son. Every time I would see him, Mom, you've got to do this. Mom, you've got to do that. You've got to do this. And I said to him one time, I just grabbed his hands. I said, stop. Stop constantly telling me I've got to do this and I've got to do that because you make me feel broken.
Very good.
Simply put your arms around me and tell you how much you love me, because that's the energy I need. Oh, okay. I said, I know you mean well, but you're making me feel broken. And he didn't know that. So even though now, you know, like, Mom, I really want to do something for you. It's not in the sense of you're broken. It's just, I want to make sure that you are around as long as possible. So it's change. That concern is still there, but not making me feel like that what's wrong with me is what's wrong with me, you know, is it? Yeah, exactly. That they've lost me. No, you know, we don't want to lose ourselves behind whatever issues, whether it's financial, health, or loss, your grief. We don't want to lose ourselves behind that. So please don't just see that label. See the person behind it and bring them out.
This is also a matter of trust. So if your child walks in the room and all they see is, let's see, what can I see here that I could fix for Mom, then your trust level goes down. It's like, so the next time he comes over, you're more guarded. Right?
Yes.
So what we have to do is tell the adult children, listen, the relationship comes first. Ask them what's going on, what they did that's new, what are they watching on TV, what are they cooking for you for dinner. I mean, just let them be your mom and dad, and then, you know, let things happen naturally. But when you walk in the room and you say, let's see what I can fix here. Right? So adult children, listen up. Your parents, it's the relationship first. And even if you don't get around to talking about anything that might be needed, save it. It must not be it's not a crisis. Just get that relationship back and get on track and get the trust there, because it works both ways. You know, what if they need something?
Exactly.
And so it's all about.
It's like, you know, my son-in-law, you know, it said to me, I'm the armchair grandma. And at first I thought, what does he mean by that? And then, I can't get down on the ground with the baby because it's hard for me to get back up. That's one of my issues. But I live an hour and 40 minutes away. And if they need me, who's the person they call? Right? And I'm down there, and they've unfortunately, he's only a half-hour napper. So it makes it really hard for them to do something. So now they know they can go and do something, or go shopping, or go do this and that. I've got the baby, you know, and it's like, okay, I may not be able to get down on the ground. Don't limit me to whatever else I can do, but I can do plenty more. And it's, you know, being shown that. And it's like, you know, it's, be careful of labeling people, and also maybe clarify, you know, right? Because what he mean, you know, I think what he meant is that, no, I can't get down on the ground, but I am, you know, the lovey-dovey one. He's seen that now. But it's let's look to what people can contribute, and let's not emphasize what they can't.
Of all ages.
Of all ages. Our expectation that you've got to fulfill this need of mine, and it's not your need to fill, and then you feel bad because you can't fulfill it, and you feel less than because you can't fulfill it. That is something that gathers moss down the road and becomes something that becomes very devaluing of a person.
It does. So no labeling. Ageism is not just about old people. How about terrible twos. Well, we can't say that either.
Yeah.
Or the teenagers. Oh, teenagers. No, we must stop this.
Yeah.
We must just approach people as they are and help them be who they are and not label anybody at any age.
Yes, exactly. Because I think what we're also seeing today, we're seeing kids, we see this on talent shows, 12, 13, 9 of this or that, the cooking shows, 8 and 9, cooking cordon bleu meals that are just unbelievable, and little talent that, all of a sudden there's an adult coming out of their voice, and they're tiny little people, it's like doing magic, and it's like just so together, and just so kind of professional for their young age. And it's like, we weren't like that at that age because society had told us what we were meant to be at that age. And, now if we look at it, it's like, let us discover who they are. Let them help them discover even more of what they can be, and be encouraging in that way, and not go, well, you're only 30.
Or you're 80, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's got to stop. We need to individualize and be with each other as we are, and our potential, and our, as influencers, and be very considerate of the possibilities of anybody's age, any possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very different way to be with people now, and it helps us as we do grow into ourselves more and more. There's a saying that we don't grow older, we just become more of who we already are.
Yeah, good or bad. We hope you're growing wiser, but age doesn't mean
not
you're
necessarily
always wise.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that never grew up. And then you've got the people that are that wonderful, person of age with such gorgeous goofiness, that you can't help but love them, and there was a whole, I think it was in New York, they did a whole expose of people in the 70s and 80s and the way they dressed, and it was very avant-garde, and wrinkles and all, and like just the confidence and the exuberance of who they were. I did a show with a young girl called Keshi, who was on America's Got Talent, and she was 65% of her body was burnt in a plane crash. And, she just totally blew my mind the first time I interviewed her. And then the second time I see her on America's Got Talent. And the initial reaction for people, because clearly there's disfigurement there, right? You can't hide it, was, oh. And then she sang. And then it was, oh. And she went right up to, the end, came back, did the Champions one. I've had the honor of interviewing her 3 times. Every time she leaves me with, another thing. And it's like, simple thing is like, well, I itch all the time. You know what it's like when you get an itch? You want to scratch it. She can't scratch it. It's dead skin, and she itches all the time. Can you imagine how that could drive you crazy? Yet for her, that song, that diving into that song, pouring everything out into that song, that's her illumination. That's who she really is on the inside. So let's look at the people that are on the inside, never mind what the exterior is.
Oh, they're beautiful. Yes. And this is the advantage of having very old people in our lives. Yeah. Is they are all about that.
Yeah.
And they are the, what I call in my life, the living answers. And when life gets crazy, I just go to my old friends, and they calm me down because they've been there and they've seen it all, and they've lost everything and they've gained what they needed to have. And this is all I know. All I need is these people in my life for the rest of my life. I will always cultivate the relationships of old people.
Yes.
Because of course they leave me, and then I get more friends. But that's usually because they introduce me to their friends. And so there's a nice pool of people. But it's something that I've done since I was 14 years old. I've never been without the friendship of people who are 30 years older than me.
I remember when I was 15, I think, and I met this woman who I think was 66. And she was kind of rounder like I am now. And we got talking, and she had traveled, lived in several countries. She had traveled the world, and she'd done this and done that. And I remember being so inspired, and I said, I just want to be like you. when I'm old. I want to travel. I've traveled. I've lived in 4 countries. I've had that kind of experience. And it was like unknowingly the impact that she had on me, because she showed me what was possible. Don't settle for what is if your heart desires to explore more.
And Sarah, you're still talking about her.
Yes.
Look at this. It's perfect.
And who knew the impact that she would have on me? But, subliminally it was there, and it set me off on that adventure. And life is an adventure to be explored, isn't it?
That's right.
I think when we stop exploring, when we become complacent, I think there's 2 C's, 3, complacent, comparison, and competition. Competition in sports and things like this, or a competition, that's different. But when we're in competition with each other, and when we compare each other, and when we become complacent with things, I think there are 3 deadly things that are going to just spiral down.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the other books. As I said, you've got the Complete Eldercare Planner, and then you've got How to Care for Your Aging Parents. Are they written in the same way that you've written this one?
The Complete Eldercare Planner is a book that is written for people who are caring for aging parents and loved ones. So the focus is someone else to be cared for. The format is very reader friendly. So in many ways, that book and the Who Will Take Care of Me When I'm Old follows a formula that makes it easy to digest. Both of the books are not to be read like a novel.
Right.
All you got to do is open up the book, look at the table of contents, decide what's important to you in the moment, go to that, and maybe sometimes you're going to read a paragraph, and sometimes maybe you're going to read a whole chapter.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't need to read it. You just need to focus on what you need and then put it on your nightstand.
It's an informational how-to.
You got it. And you won't be putting it away altogether on the bookshelf because something else is going to happen, something you're going to need, and then you pull it back. So I'm told that it is a resource more than a book. And so I only really have 2 books, the Complete Eldercare Planner and Who Will Take Care of Me When I'm Old. But the Complete Eldercare Planner is in its 6th edition. So it just keeps getting updated because, as you know, the world of family caregiving has evolved.
Oh gosh. And we've never in the history of time had so many people of age still being alive or still being productive,
Exactly.
Still, 50 used to be old, if you made it to 60, wow,
Yes, we've never had this happen in the history of mankind. So now what's happening is the caregivers got older. So now caregivers are 50, 60, even 70 years old.
Yeah.
And their parents are in 90 of 100, and they have children, and they have grandchildren. This has never happened.
Yeah.
So now caregiving, as I say in my talks, caregiving never ends.
Right. Also, when you look at the ages of people, like my daughter got married in her early 30s. She's had her grandchild, my grandchild at 32. I've one daughter at 39 who will not have children. My son is about to turn 37, not married yet. I was 28 when I had my first, and that was considered old for having your first child, because it used to be, 20 or so was kind of the age that you kind of got married and had kids. And that's changed quite considerably. Our millennials, not rushing to have kids. And they want careers. They want to enjoy life. They want to travel. They want to do something. And then when they have kids, they look at it as being important and really invest in those children rather than just, oh, well, it's part of the process, just have a kid. So as the baby boomer thing has changed, so is the millennial approach to life. And so their children's generation, I think in many ways, we've got a division. I think with the millennials, we've got those that are just permanently on their phones and selfies and things like this and kind of live that non-participatory life, I call it. And then you've got the others that are like, I'm going to fight for the environment. I want life to mean something. I love community. I want to build that community. And it's all about that camaraderie, and depth and care. And we're really seeing that coming through, which is really interesting. So their children, it's going to be very interesting as to what their generation is. But I think we're going to see in a lot of ways a very caring generation for the LD, that, you know, kind of, we did go to, oh, my parents are older, I'm working, I can't deal with this, just throw them in a home. And we saw a great deal of that. And then, you know, I'll visit them now and again. And that is, again, you know, if they're not people that can create their own community inside of there, just wither and die, right?
Yes, I'm seeing a lot of boomers have a much closer relationship with their grandchildren. And the advantage of that, of course, is perhaps they have a better way to live, living with a grandparent in the grandparent's house, so that they don't have to worry about housing. So they're learning about caregiving, and also they're not worried about so much about money in the moment and housing, which is very, very stressful. So it's a win-win situation in these relationships.
I mean, you know, I think the bottom line of it is whatever we're doing, have a heart, care, respect, value. You know, maybe that person does have dementia or Alzheimer's. Maybe that person has gone senile. That is, you know, part of sometimes the process of growing older. That doesn't mean they're any less than.
Well, we talked about that before. I mean, it's typically not a problem in other cultures where they're very accepting of people who have some kind of dementia. It is in Italy, especially. People are disengaged with each other. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You never know. As we all gather around the dinner table, all of us at one time, and there's so much fun happening, and there's no responding to each other like, oh, I better be careful about what I say, or can you hear me?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's just treating them as they are, respectfully.
My daughter's always saying, I say, what? And you go, Mom, where are your hearing aids? I said, no, speak louder. You know, it's not that I'm that deaf. She's very softly spoken like this, and I can't hear her. And I said, look, when you're around me, just turn it up an octave. You know, I hate the hearing aids, and they're really not that great. But, you know, it's, I'm fine around other people if they just raise the octave. So just know when you're with me, raise the octave. You know, so it's the same with other people. You know, don't make them feel like they're less than. You just adjust the way you approach them.
Exactly. Yeah. So
there's so much to learn about getting older. And I think, you know, one of the things is to understand we don't want to feel we've been put out to pasture. We don't want to feel that we're no longer of any use. We don't want to feel that we're a burden. And we don't want to feel that we're useless. We still got so much to give. And even if we can't actually get out there and participate in something anymore, you can always come to us and sit down and have a conversation, and you'll never know what you go away with. You know, that 13, 14-year-old who had that conversation with the 60s, I had no idea the impact that she had on my life, you know, subliminally. And we don't know how we can affect other people's lives through our own storytelling. And let's pass the story on with respect and value.
Couldn't have said it better, Sarah. That's really the bottom line, is we need each other. We so need each other. And we all learned that lesson. COVID was really the experience of what many people experience in old age. Isolation, perhaps difficulty ordering things, getting around, no one coming to visit, no one calling. What was that like? Everybody, if you just take a step back, what was COVID experience like for you? And how can you be a better person going forward?
How can you be more inclusive? More inclusive, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, it's like, as I said, there are so many people that are still such wonderful contributors in the exuberance. But then if it is that you have become more reclusive, or physically or emotionally, mentally, you cannot be out there so much, don't just look at them as they are now. Look at them at the life that they have contributed to. And sometimes it may have been a troubled life, but you know, you don't know that they just did the best they could with what they had. And, you know, even if they've struggled, learn from those struggles. Maybe it's don't do it that way. all right, or address things before they get out of hand. Don't carry the burden. There's so much even to learn from people when you look at them and go, how did they get there? Well, you want to make sure you don't get there. They're an example of that. Reverse engineer, right?
So a part of the book, I talk about critical thinking, and these are the kinds of questions we can ask. What would you do differently if you were me?
Yes.
And critical thinking is something we don't learn in school. However, it is imperative to learn how to do critical thinking as we prepare for old age. It's a different process. It's highly inclusive. It asks different questions, and it requires us to be brave.
Right. And the critical thinking, what would you do different? That doesn't mean you have regrets. It's just that I am wiser now, and I would have done differently. But one of the things that I've learned from doing all of these shows is people who have gone through the process of struggles come out the other end saying, I wouldn't change anything if it meant me not being where I am now. And, it is our struggles. It is our challenges. It is the things that we face that make us stronger, make us wiser, show us our abilities, shows our resilience, and very often shows us our calling, right? So, would we like to have changed things? Yes. But if we change things, would it change where we are now? Who knows, right? But yeah, you can still share, I perhaps wouldn't have done that. Right?
Well, we never know.
No, it's hindsight 2020, right?
That's right. But it also proves that everybody is lovable.
Yes, even the most grumpy.
I have learned that the grumpy are typically in pain. And that's something else for us to know as caregivers, that one of the first questions I ask if someone is highly grumpy, and I'm being nice with those words, is to say, let's stop talking about what we're talking about. Are you experiencing any pain right now? You appear to be quite grumpy. And 9 out of 10 times they say yes.
Yes.
That there's pain in their bodies. We don't know when someone is in physical pain.
Or emotional pain.
Yes, but mostly it's physical, because they a lot of times can't identify the emotional stuff. But boy, they sure know when their arm hurts and they're aching and pain. And I always just say, is there pain involved, your physical pain? And that's another magical moment when we can say, what can I do for you?
You're right. You care.
Because you can't get a conversation in if someone is in pain, physical pain. It's almost impossible.
And especially if they're in pain that there's not much you can do about, but very often acknowledging that pain. I see you, I hear you, I care, can release a great deal of that pain.
Well said.
So it's just not wanting to hide it all the time. We want to be brave, we want to be bravado. And it's like, sometimes it's just okay to say, you know what, it's a difficult day.
I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
That is, and when you give people the space to say that, magic happens.
Because they then want to step, how can I make it better?
Exactly. Yeah. What can I do? And many times they'll say, just hear me, just be with me.
Yeah.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that what we all want?
Going back to the thing that I did on Only the Lonely, and it's so sad of so many people that are living on their own, and they're day in and day out just looking out the window, no connection. Maybe they can't get out. Maybe they financially can't get out. And especially in apartment blocks, I'm always saying this at Christmas. If you know somebody lives alone, knock on the door. Invite them over for tea. They don't have to come over for Christmas dinner, or just say, I've got a little gift for you. How are you doing? It's just to let them know that they're still alive and that you care. And please, can we all step into caringness? Because if we don't care for other people, why should other people care for us?
I have a movement. My book started an organic movement. I didn't know it was going to take place. It's called Let's Eat Together. And I did promote the process of inviting someone to share a meal. And it grew into a movement. And now people are sharing ideas with each other on how to make that happen. And it's very possible to share a meal now that we're over the COVID thing, but it was even possible. I also live in an apartment building where I would sit in the hallway and my girlfriend would sit in her apartment. I was still there, but we were sharing a meal. We were 6 feet apart and we were talking. I was sitting in the hallway. I'd bring a chair and my dinner and a glass of wine, and she had wine, and we would just enjoy each other's company. And it's possible, even under these circumstances, sharing a meal. And I'm not saying this just because I'm Italian, where we just live and breathe for food and engagement. It is magic. It is just where people connect. Everybody tends to let their guard down.
Yes.
And not being hungry is another reason why people they haven't eaten right. The nutrition isn't even there. What magic we could provide for a relationship with an orange or something that is nutritional. It's so easy.
Home-baked goods. You know what? I was doing some baking and I thought you might like some.
Oh my gosh. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Happy food, which is ice cream. Yes. Who doesn't love ice cream? Yeah. That's my go-to with a cone sometimes, but it instantly makes people happy. Yeah. Instantly.
There was a wonderful commercial a while ago of a girl coming home and people going into their own doors, and she going, God, you're all behind our own doors. And, and she went out and put a table outside and chairs and knocked on other doors. And everybody started bringing their tables and chairs out and their own food. And there they are in the corridor. And everybody's getting to know each other. And so no longer you go to pass each other, or just nod. You go, hi, how are you? What do you do? You know what? Come over for some wine or whatever. And the thing is, why are we so scared?
I don't know.
To say hello and invite people over? Is this because society, movies, and everything else has made everybody the boogeyman, or distrusting of each other? How do we build trust? Well, first of all, we've got to be open to receiving it and giving it.
Someone has to be brave.
Yes, we do. I mean, there's always red flag warning signs. Pay attention to those.
Yeah.
But don't put them first. Well, I don't know. They could be. I don't know. And it's like you've just painted them as the biggest villain before you've even said hello.
I just want to have a hot dog with you.
Exactly. So I think a lot of it is we've become very insular in our lives. A lot of it is being protectiveness and guarding. Maybe we've gone through bad relationships, or it's just like I don't need somebody else telling me what to do, whatever the reason is. And then we realized, being on our own. I mean, I was married, and then I had my kids at home, divorced, the kids at home, and then I haven't lived on my own in 42 years. Right. And it's like, I would love to live on my own. But then the universe keeps throwing me together with people. Right. And it's like, okay, I get it. See,
right.
I'm not meant to live on my own. Okay, I hear you. But it's just go with it. If you're constantly kind of put in a situation where it's having you meet people, opening up to those suggestions, stop fighting it, go with it, because it's what's meant to be.
It's right. Yeah, exactly. Just let the universe help you do and be who you need to be as well. Yeah. And
allow.
Pay attention. Allow. Yes, I love the art of allowing. I love that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And you're doing yourself a disservice if you're constantly on guard. And and you know what? I actually did a posting day of Keanu Reeves when people say, well, single people are so lonely. And he was saying, no, I can take myself for dinner. I can buy my own clothes. I can do everything. I'm the same. I will go out for dinner and lunch on my own. I have no problems in doing that. I generally get to meet people. Right.
Yes.
But it is better when we can actually go out with other people. So there is the loneliness in a crowd is worse than, being alone on your own of your own choice. But at the same time, we are meant to be packed people.
I'm the opposite of you. I do have a problem eating alone in a restaurant. However, what I do is when I go to a restaurant, I sit at the counter. Or I'll go to a European style restaurant where they have benches where everybody just keeps. So I'll go to certain restaurants where it's natural to sit with people we don't know.
Right.
And that's because I'm not used to them. Culturally, I'm surrounded by people I know when I eat. So when I travel all the time, I have to go out to eat.
Yes.
So I find those places where I'm not sitting alone. I feel like the spotlight is on me. I don't have that mentality, but I will find a way to go to a place that's conducive to having people around me, and I'm easy to strike up a conversation. Right. Yeah. But so even if you feel uncomfortable going out to eat, there are ways. Yes. And I have a lot of ideas in the book because I started writing about that because of me, because of my problem. It's like, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. Yeah. And then I figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get to talk to people and sometimes I don't. And sometimes it's just a moment or two's conversation. Where are you from? Da, 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 ba, 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 ba. I love everybody goes, but it's still that connection, you know, and it's, we look for connections. We want connections. But I'm also not afraid to go out and do things on my own. You know, I'm not waiting for that connection because you never know by putting myself out there, you know, of meeting those people that could strike. I've done that. I've met people where we strike up and become friends. Yeah. And then other times it's just me, and I'm all right also with my own company. And I think that's also something we don't want people around us because we're lonely with ourselves. Be at one with yourself. You know the love of self, because that's the love that we want you to bring to others.
It's the love we emote as well.
Yes, yes. Be the good vibrations. How do people get hold of your books? How do they get hold of you? How do they book you for a talk?
Well, books are available wherever books are sold. So they are, I have publishers that have the books available worldwide. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, however you get a book at the bookstore. And then my website is elderindustry.com. So people who want to hire me to speak or to consult with them, I only work with professionals. I don't do one-on-one consulting, but I work with the professionals, lawyers, insurance people, financial planners, and I help them facilitate their success with people who are struggling with these kinds of needs. Or I wake them up and say, you can't assume everybody's in a partnership or a relationship. You must address the needs of people who are aging solo. Yeah. So I help them with this, and so that's how they get in touch with me. And you Google my name. I'm all over the place.
Can you spell your name so people who are listening can spell it right?
Yes, it's easy. My first name is Joy. My last name is Loverde, and the first word is lover. Loverde is my name. So Loverde.
And that's, and you are full of joy. You really are. That exuberance
I'm happy.
Yours. Yes. And you clearly are happy in what you're doing and your meaningful purpose. And and as I said, your books, you know, they're so utterly detailed. And as you said, they're kind of that how-to guidebook. You know, oh gosh, I don't know what to do in this situation. Right. Open the book. There is this in that chapter. There's that information. So you're empowering people to feel that they can take some form of control over a situation and not feel helpless.
Exactly. Right. As long as they take that first step, they like you said, there are many resources. Yes. They're everywhere. You just have to be brave and take the first step and say, I think I'm going to start doing something about my life right now. Yeah. And there you go.
I mean, this book is great for you dealing with your, you know, all three of you, but great for dealing with your elderly parents or your grandparents. But as I said, preparation for your own old age. And, you know, the stitching time or planting the seeds now, watering and nurturing them. Later on, you're not going to have to worry about the growth. It's there.
Well, that's right. We can't establish trusting relationships in a crisis. No. It doesn't happen. Trust only happens over time. Yeah. So that's hopefully that will motivate someone to say, that will be the reason why I will begin the process of surrounding myself with the assumption that I may have to do this in old age by myself.
Yeah. And you know what? It's golden girls or golden guys, you know, if you are one of the blessed ones that are managed, you know, in a relationship to be together, right to the very end, that is a gift in itself, but it's a rarity.
It's right.
So, somebody may go before the other. What are you going to do if they do? I don't want to think about it. No, we don't want to think about it. But at the same time, we need to prepare because, if you're the man and your wife goes and you haven't prepared for her, and if he goes and you don't know anything that's going on, one needs to prepare for it. What's going, and because each other, we want to know, you're okay if I go. Right?
Exactly.
So we may not want it, but if it happens, we know you're going to be okay.
That's right.
And so talk about it. Even talk about how you want to die in the sense of your exit, how you want to be buried, what kind of celebration you want. It's not a la 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 la. It's I've lived with you. How would you like to exit? I want to honor that. And who knows who's going to be there at the end to do this? But if it's both of you, then obviously the children can continue it. If you don't have children, then your community and your best friends. Right? There's always somebody. So, but
there is always
preparation. Folks, I didn't prepare. Please listen to me. I wish I had. I really do wish I had. I do have 3 children who have assured me they're going to look after me. But I saw what happened with my mother. She was bedbound for the last 5 years. My brother was looking after her. He actually had a heart attack looking after her because he was working full-time job and looking after her. My sister would come down and help. She ended up getting a hernia that they can't operate on now. And, my mum got to that point, well, who's going to look after me if he's had the heart attack? Because she went into almost that selfish mode, which they do because I can't do anything for myself. So who's going to look after me? And they didn't prepare for this. Right. And if you're looking at the resources out there being for you, we know that those resources may not be there. So therefore, be your own resources. What else can you do? Please prepare.
Please prepare. Thank you for saying that over and over and
again.
over
Yes.
again.
The stitch in time, folks. Yes, we need to do that. And I don't care how young you are. You may be preparing for your own parents, but ultimately you're also preparing for yourself, right? And, having access to the knowledge or knowing the knowledge is peace of mind, and it allows you to take the action necessary without panic.
That's right. Remember, there is no planning in a crisis.
Right. Yeah, because you're flapping. Ah! So if if you have the resources, okay, what do we do? Grab the book.
It's not a good thing to do, but you could still, you will get help that way.
Right. The other thing is if you've actually, scanned the book and go, okay, I've got this resource, I can look back at that, but I really looked over it and okay, she said this. So I can calm down and I can address that. So, then you can go back to the book and go, okay, I remember she said this. Now what do I do? And, think calmly, because in a crisis, we don't take those breaths, calm down. The knowledge is at hand if you buy the books.
Thank you. Yeah.
So please buy the books. They're a wonderful gift for parents to give their children. They're a wonderful gift for the children to even give the parents and say, I've got this book, I've got you covered. Right? And it's also a wonderful gift to give to other people in communities. And like, you know what? I may only be 20 or 30, but hey, we should start planning.
That's right. Because remember, we talked about we may have our plans in order, but if the people around us don't, we're still not planning the whole full circle.
Right. Exactly.
Gotta do all of it. Help other people feel comfortable with the conversations.
Yeah. There's holes in your puzzle if you're not looking at all the pieces.
You got it. I love that.
Thank you so much for sharing here today. We could go on and on and on, but it's, we need these resources. We need this wisdom. It's the fact that you've written it as a resource book, the how-to. I don't know what to do. It's here. The book, it's here. Okay, let's supply it, or let's prevent it. Mom and dad are getting older. What are we going to do? If, well, you've given the resources of how to prepare for that. So when we know the knowledge, we are much calmer about dealing with it and knowing what to do about it. But you've given the resources in all 3 of these books of knowing what to do. So thank you. This is a great gift, folks. Christmas is around the corner.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. And folks, we're all going to get old. Remember, it's a gift age. It's a gift. If you've managed every single year to see another birthday, you've got another time period in front of you to really live your life. Don't give up. Don't give in. Remember, you may not be able to do what you used to be able to do, but you can still do something. And all that beautiful wisdom and knowledge inside of you can be passed on in any which way. And kids out there, please don't look at them as old, farty, and smelly. Look at them as an abundance of life that's paved the way for you. Have some respect, have some value, listen and learn, because I promise you, you will reflect on it later in life. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.